So we're moving on in his career then now, and we're moving on to 1980 now, and I think this is where we get to the most significant point of his career. I think the two fights with Sugar Ray Leonard, for me, were defining nights for him. Legendary nights, of course, and the first fight being one of our Legendary Nights episodes. So if you've not already listened to the Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran Brawl in Montreal Legendary Nights episode, it is there, it is in the feed, you can search for it. Go and give that one a listen. That is a full breakdown of the build-up, fight and aftermath between this particular fight. So we're not going to go over that too much. We'll skim over that and concentrate a little bit more on the second fight. But obviously that was the first time where Roberto Duran had gone in with another fantastic, talented class fighter in Sugar Ray Leonard, and obviously beat Sugar Ray Leonard. And also significantly, this was obviously when he'd moved up as well, so he'd moved up at this point to the welterweight division. You know, we always talk about him struggling to make the weight. He obviously needed to make that move up because he was struggling at lightweight, so he'd moved on from a legendary lightweight career at this point, obviously amassing some fantastic results along the way with a great trilogy with Esteban de Zeus, and then moves into his welterweight career, which is the second part of this four-part career of Roberto Duran's. And obviously the first significant fight there for me was Sugar Ray Leonard in Montreal in 1980.
The two fights against Roberto Duran was night and day. The first fight, I realized the significance of psychological warfare because he got me upstairs, and physically he overwhelmed me. I learned that it's just not physical, but it's also mental. And the first fight, I had lost so much of my composure going into the ring. I totally forgot about what I could do effectively against Roberto Duran. I should have been more of a boxer then. I tried to outslug him. I tried to out-hustle him. I tried to out-punch him, which was not smart by any means. 15 rounds of that pretty much taught me a major lesson that I got to think first too.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the weight, and I did actually jot down his weight as he was going through his career, and just before that first fight in Montreal, he was like 142, 151, 147, 146, 145. So, you know, where people were sort of saying, even went up to what I think his highest weight was 151. I mean, it's crazy because people actually turn around saying that he's going to struggle at welterweight. I think he was walking around probably as a middleweight. To be honest, he had to burn off like 20 pounds in a month, which tends to happen, which is just crazy. So, yeah, obviously, we've done a Legendary Nights, and we did break down all the beforehand bit with the welterweight. So, you know, skimming on obviously to he came back from that fight and he was an absolute hero. You know, and he partied hard, and we mentioned that on Legendary Nights as well. And he really did party hard, and so hard that he was well overweight. And he had, again, I think he had 1 month to strip off. I think he actually said he was. I think it was like 50 pounds or something ridiculous like that. 40 or 50 pounds he had to get rid of in a month. And, you know, clearly going to be struggling. And Sugar Ray Leonard jumped on it, and he done the right thing. Carlos Aleta told him he's going to be fighting, and, you know, this is it. So Duran went in. He said he didn't feel good throughout that whole month trying to strip off the weight. And he said the whole camp was just about boiling down. He didn't really train very well. He had the stomach cramps. Whether this is true or not, people said it was a fabricated story because, you know, it was just something he needed to put out there because I don't think he quite realised the backlash he was going to get. And Sugar Ray was masterful in his performance. He really was. He was outstanding. He done exactly what he should have done in the first fight. Kept it at range. Duran, he just got fed up, didn't he? And he said no más. So yeah, he said he can't go on, and that was what happened in was it the 8th round, and everything just went from bad to worse for him, and he became like the Panama hero and went to a complete zero. Nobody liked him. Everybody told him he was a quitter, and I think the first thing he did was he went to Miami. He quite liked Miami from fighting as a lightweight, and he disappeared to Miami, and he stayed there for a good few months, trying to hope for it to all die down, and it didn't. Yeah, so he was in a bit of a downer, and no one wanted to do anything to do with him. Carlos Aleta left him, so he didn't know no money. He had no money. He reckoned he had 1 million and he reckons he's sent it all or something like this. I can't quite remember the ins and outs of it. And even Ray Arcel left him. Freddie Brown left him as well. So he was literally left with Palomo and his brother. And that was how he felt. And he was right down in the dumps. And, you know, it's a shame, really, because it was only boxing. You know, if someone was to say, I've had enough, that's fine. But, you know, that was frowned upon in 1980. And if you were a guy of his, you know, this macho, unfortunately, you're going to get, it's got a bit of a taboo about it, and that's exactly what happened. And it's something that will haunt him forever and throughout his whole career.
I feel that he blew his own heart. He hurt himself by being not rational with what was taking place, because the first fight and the second fight was night and day. The first fight was pounding against the ropes, clenching, tying up, headbutting, everything else. The second fight was more artistic. It was more technical, and I was able to use more of my speed and my quick feet, my thinking, my ring generalship that proved to be extremely effective with him. So there was a big controversy or debate about him saying no mas. I didn't particularly hear him say it, but this indicates no more.
I said, Duran, the fight is over, but what happened to you? He said, listen, nothing happened to me. But you know, you smart, invent something. So I said, well, I saw you touching your stomach. He said, oh yeah, well, you know, I had a little pain, but he didn't do it. It's just that food that I ate. I said, well, you had cramps. Well, Howard Cosell was approaching me for the interview. So Cosell jumped at it right away, and I jumped with the answer right away. That was the cramps. But Duran didn't have any cramps. I can tell you that very honestly and sincerely, to you and to the world. He just quit, and that was it.
Do you really think that's what he meant when he said no more? Do you really think that was quitting? Because he still, to this day, sort of says something else. He sort of says what he actually said was no Seago. As in, I won't go on. That's what he said. He said, but there was all sorts of different stories from his family as well about how he wasn't actually quitting the fight. It was more about the fact that he was being embarrassed in the fight more so than it was I want to quit the fight, and that's kind of what has come out of his own family, you know, talking about this particular fight. But it's a massive significant moment in his career because, you know, he is remembered for that. He is remembered significantly, not just for the amazing career he had, but he's also remembered for that one particular moment where throughout boxing history, you know, people, you've never seen it. I don't think anyone had ever seen it. I don't think a fight of that magnitude you'd ever seen something like that happening. And for me, that was massive, significant. I mean, there's been documentaries about it. There's been all sorts of YouTube videos of people trying to give their own take on it. And obviously, we're talking about it on the podcast. So it's such a significant moment in his career and led to a little bit of that downward spiral where, as you were saying, he lost very significant people out of his team before he could move on in his career and go into the next phase of his career. And I think this was, you know, this is something where he sort of, I've watched various interviews of Duran's over the years, you know, more so this day and age, and I think he sort of, I don't know, I get mixed messages from it, to be honest with you, because I get messages as of him saying, no, I never really quit the fight, and then I get messages of it saying, oh, well, he was just embarrassed about being completely outboxed and outgunned by Sugar Ray Leonard in the second fight, and I don't know, I mean, what's your actual personal take on it?
Yeah, I really don't know, because, I mean, I read the book, and he discussed it, and he said he had cramps, and he said that was the problem. That's what he said in his book. And then I watched the I Am Duran documentary, and he sort of stuttered. He didn't say too much, and then he sort of said, you know, he mentioned again, I had cramps, and then I see something else, and then someone else was saying that it was this fabricated story because they wanted to just say something, and then I think it was, and then he sort of went on in the documentary, and he said something. He sort of slipped up in a little way where he didn't say that he had it. He just sort of said he didn't say give up. He just said he had enough. He didn't want to fight me, kind of thing. So. Again, I'm with you. It's mixed messages. I think that the trouble was that he had a month to get himself into shape, and he was pissed off. He was pissed off from the moment that happened. And